Welcome to today's broadcast. We will continue our study of the book of Genesis, chapter number 22. Yesterday we were looking at the testing of Abraham from verse number 1 to verse number 10. So today we will continue with the same study, verse number 11 to verse number 19. Now I'm going to read verse 11 to 19. But the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, Abraham, Abraham. Here I am, he replied. Do not lay a hand on the boy, he said. Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son. Abraham looked up, and there in a thicket he saw a ram caught by its horns. He went over and took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called that place, the Lord will provide. And to this day it is said, on the mountain of the Lord it will be provided. The angel of the Lord called Abraham from heaven a second time and said, I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this and have not withheld your son withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies, and through your offspring all nations on earth will be blessed, because you have obeyed me. Now, yesterday we saw how God tested Abraham, and we saw the kind of tests that Abraham had to overcome. He had to affirm his love, he had to affirm his commitment, he had to affirm his obedience to God. Now, I want us to look at one thing that is very key and important here. Look how many times God says, you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. You have not withheld. That is something that touched the heart of God. Abraham did not withhold his son Isaac from God. He wanted to sacrifice. Now, going back to what I had said yesterday or in the previous broadcast, Abraham, and as we see here, repeated again and again, your only son, your only son. And here I don't want to jump ahead and talk about how Isaac is a foreshadow of who Jesus will come and be, the sacrificial lamb, many years after, which is true. Abraham had given his son as a sacrificial lamb. The same way that God, many thousands of years ago, thousands of years after that, gave his one and only son Jesus to die for our sin, for the sins of all humanity, so that whoever believes in him shall not perish. I will not get into that today. What I want to get into today is the phrase that is repeated twice. Verse number 12, God says, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son. And then you go again in verse number 16, the same words are repeated, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son. Number one, it is important for us to know why this is so repeated. Your only son. It is because this was the son of a promise. He was the only son of a promise. Ishmael was not the son of a promise. And Ishmael came through ways that God had not intended, had not planned, had not approved. So the only son that God recognized as the son of Abraham, the son of a promise, was Isaac. Now look, the most important item that Abraham had, and I said that yesterday, the most important item that Abraham had was his son. He had waited for years. He had waited until he was 100 years, because Isaac was born when Abraham was 100 years. His wife Sarah was 90 years old when Isaac was born. Imagine waiting for all those years and then you get a son. That's a precious, precious item. Even to us who, get children naturally, in the normal way, without waiting, you wouldn't want to sacrifice your son. You wouldn't want to sacrifice your child. You will go crazy or mad if your son is missing. Most of us. Or if anything happened to your son. Most of us, we do everything that we can in this life to make sure that our children get or have the best that they can. Now imagine Abraham, whose son Isaac was the son of a promise, the only son, the one that God had said will be his heir, the one who will carry on his lineage, and he did not withhold that from God. God asked for it. God asked for his son. He did not withhold his son from God. This touched God. He repeats it twice. He sends an angel twice. The first time he said, "You did not withhold your son from me." That touched God. The second time an angel comes saying, you did not withhold your son from me. And for that reason, God blessed Abraham. See the blessings that the angel of the Lord speaks. And God swears by himself. That's what the Bible says. God swears by himself. And he says, "I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky." This may be a repetition of what God had said earlier. But it's not the same. God has affirmed, he has confirmed that he is going to do it. He's going to do it because Abraham did not withhold what was precious from God. To him, Isaac was precious, a son of a promise, but he did not withhold. I am here to tell you, I know there are things that you like, you love in your life. I am here to urge you, do not withhold anything from God. Don't withhold anything from God. Many times God will ask of us that we sacrifice what we have. We sacrifice for the sake of the kingdom, for the sake of others, for the sake of him. He will ask that we sacrifice. I want to urge you, do not withhold anything from God. You want to be blessed like Abraham? Do not withhold anything from God. Imagine today we're talking about Abraham. Many years later, we're talking about Abraham. We are reading about Abraham because of such things that he did. The most important thing, he did not withhold his one and only son, Isaac, from God. It can be the same for you. And I don't know what you value in your life. It could be your children. It could be your spouse. It could be your husband or your wife. It could be your vehicle. It could be whatever. It could be your home. It could be your relationships. It could be whatever. But I want to tell you, do not withhold any of this from God. Do not. And God will bless you. And there are many ways of withholding what we have from God. For example, you can withhold your time from God. Most of our time is precious. Today, during our times, we say that time is money because, every time you spend, if you go to work, that is time that you're spending at work that you're making money. It's time that you could be doing business. You could be doing something else. Time is money. How much time do you give to God? Look at your money. How much money do you give to God? For most of us, we give God what is left over, our change. We have big notes to do other things, to have fun, to entertain our kids and our families, but we only have coins to offer to God. We are withholding what we value from God. Look at even the items that we give out. We give out to the poor. What kind of items do you give to the poor? Do you give the best or do you give what you don't need? God desires that we give him the best. We have an example here. Abraham. God asked for the best that he had, his son, and Abraham did not withhold it from him. Fast forward thousands of years later, God himself, seeing that we were in need, he did not withhold his son Jesus. He let him come and die so that he may redeem and deliver and save us, so that he may bring us back to him. Do not withhold anything from God, and he will surely bless you. Thank you for joining me. Until we meet again tomorrow, God bless you.